Dr. Gerard. Please give all of them a big hand. And you did all in 6 minutes. That's wonderful. Thank you. Workshop number 3 was on decentralization and local governance. This workshop examined different ways in which decentralization and effective local governance can promote social, economic, and political development and overall democratic governance. I would now like to invite Mr. Jean-Pierre Bassi, Secretary General of the United Cities and Local Governments in Africa. Please.
I will humbly invite you to take your headsets. I will present in French. So check. You don't count the 2 minutes that taking for headsets.
That's why my first option was to make the presentation from here, but you're welcome.
Thank you. L'atelier numéro...
Workshop number 3 on decentralization local governance brought together 200 participants on the average, representing 101 nationalities. The workshop met under the co-chairmanship of Mr. Enrique Pereira Rosa, former President of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, and Mr. Jean-Christophe Debert, Director of Development Policies at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Europe, France. It was conducted by Mr. Osman Sy, former Minister of Administration of the Territories and Decentralization of Mali, and also President of the Alliance for the Recreation of Governance in Africa, and Jean-Pierre Mbassi, Secretary General of the Cities and Governments, Local Governments in Africa. We touched on various countries, Austria, Canada, Brazil, France, India, Nigeria, Romania, and the Western Africa, and also the European Union, starting from exchange of notes and experience. The workshop wanted whether decentralization was a way of building confidence and government in these present conditions. And there were 6 points that were put forward by the workshop. Firstly, the workshop thought that decentralization did legitimize public action. The question of building confidence in the government, and of course the state is rather far and distant to take in the diversity of the local conditions prevailing. And therefore, the local level is the most apt to take in the diversity locally and use it as an asset for building up the future. The local level is where democracy and the state of law have to coexist on a day-to-day business. And of course, the local level is the one where sustainable development has to be achieved. And of course, the local communities whose action is essential in order to achieve sustainable development. This is where it happens. The workshop, however, considered the process of decentralization, considering the various paths to it, must, of course, reflect the history and developmental history of each country. And it is various forms of decentralization, not a single one, simply. Moreover, second conclusion, the workshop considered is at the locally that confidence may be built between the population and local government. And this is very important, why the government has to adopt decentralized governance. This is part of the subsidiarity process on principle, and this is part of building up a nation and state. Third conclusion, the workshop considered is ready to adaptation, the national norms and its adaptation to local conditions. And this means access for the local communities to various forms of governance. And this is particularly important in states which are called fragile, where such normal structures are not necessarily guaranteed. And therefore, the workshop recommended the greatest caution to be observed with regard to importing techniques and principles that applied in other states and countries, but which do not necessarily suit the philosophies and policies established locally. And this appeared to be of fundamental importance. We are talking about the systems of power traditionally, and this must lead to legitimacy of power and its application. Now, the credibility of any government, whatever level we may choose, depends on its capacity to providing basic services for all. And this is one of the best ways of stepping to confidence and building up confidence. And of course, the global goals, let's say millennium goals, encompass this. And here we have the competence coming in as a principle of the local community. This is the first frontier combating poverty. This has to be recognized by the state and the international community. And support must be given to local efforts at poverty reduction. The workshop recognized the partnership between various sectors on a long-term basis. And of course, all have to have access to the basic services, and dialogue should be organized at a local level between those who are users, and there's a quadripartite principle to be applied concerning basic services. The workshop also stressed the importance of integrity in local matters so that corruption be excluded and patronage be avoided. Moreover, for a government to be legitimate in the eyes of the population, then, of course, the whole population have to recognize the benefits of government. And this promotes citizenship and cooperation. And the cities has become the new crucible of new citizenship. And of course, there is a sort of competition that goes on between the local level and citizens. Public administration has become a professional matter. The promotion of decentralized programs is an interesting approach to promote solidarity amongst local officials and administrators. Sixth conclusion. In most of the southern cities, most people live in shanty towns and are employed in an informal sector. They are not accustomed to the normal administration of the city. And therefore, there should be strategies for integration of all inhabitants of the city, including the more precarious habitats. And new systems of governance should be such as to provide a possibility of outlet for all inhabitants. And we're talking about 600 cities in the world. And here we have communities where access of all should be provided to land tenure and most of the services. And this, of course, still very discriminatory, especially with regard to women. There was a conclusion by way of an appeal to modest explanation. Decentralization and governance locally is something of a target of a long-term nature. And we have to allow time to settle in and for things to settle down. The workshop has also pointed out a counterpoint that we should start work on the opportunities, potentialities, and commitments that would activate and motivate local populations in order to work towards citizenship new to be based on confidence and public authorities. And the workshop took its conclusions seriously. Thank you.